This NBA trade deadline was weird to say the least, with players we knew who were getting traded going to places we never even thought, and trade requests out of nowhere. The 2026 NBA trade deadline was definitely a good one. Hello everyone and welcome back to Step Back with Zach, and in today's video, I am going to do a recap of the NBA trade deadline. Before we get into the video, however, please don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It is really goddamn hot at the moment, so I would appreciate it very, very much if you subscribed. My goal is to hit 150 subscribers before April, so your subscription would be very much appreciated. Thank you. So, first up, we're going to start with the major trades, and probably the biggest trade of the NBA trade deadline was the Anthony Davis to the Washington Wizards trade. Washington ultimately receives Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum from the Dallas Mavericks. And Dallas receives Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley, 2 first-round picks, OKC 2026, and a Warriors top 20 protected 2030 pick. It's a lot of numbers. And I think 3 second-round picks. Now, I am not a fan of this trade for the Dallas Mavericks, other than the fact that they shared Anthony Davis's massive contract and received those 2 picks. Those picks aren't going to be worth jack. 2026 OKC first round pick, guess what? The Thunder are the best team in the league. That's going to be the dead last pick of the draft. And that 2030 top 20 protected pick isn't going to be anything either. It's top 20 protected. Like I said, those picks suck. And all the players that Dallas received from the Wizards are either not going to be in the rotation or they're going to be very minimal impact kind of guys. Chris Middleton's probably going to play, yeah, but what's he going to do? Marvin Bagley will be a decent backup center considering Derek Lively is injured for the entire year, so sure, yeah, I guess, whatever. So the Dallas Mavericks have clearly fully committed to the Cooper Flag timeline. And for that, I can't hate. Sure, I'd do the same thing. However, if we look back on it, the Dallas Mavericks turned Luka Doncic into Max Christie, Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley, the Lakers 2029 first round pick, a Thunder 2026 first round pick, a Warriors 2030 protected first round pick, a Suns 2026 second, a Bulls 2027 second, and a Rockets 2029 second round pick. Now that's a lot of assets, sure, but are they good assets? No. Now for Washington, after having some time to think about it, I thoroughly really enjoyed this trade for them. They buy low on Anthony Davis, who when he is on the court, he's an all-NBA caliber player. And on paper, Anthony Davis on this team is absolutely nuts. Fully healthy, the Washington Wizards look like Trae Young, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr being down low in the paint, nobody's scoring in the interior. Trae Young, yes, he's not a great defensive player, but he's not going to have to worry so much because this is the best front court defense that Trae Young has ever had around him. And if AD doesn't really work out, the only bad thing is that contract, because they didn't really give up anything for him. And along with Trae Young, Anthony Davis is going to be an absolutely great mentor for the young big men on this team, coming in with championship experience and a ton of playoff experience. Now, I think the Washington Wizards should sit Trae Young and Anthony Davis for the rest of the season and just keep losing games. Because if they can land a top pick in this NBA draft, a Darren Peterson, oh my God, Washington is going to look like one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference next season. And as for the other guys, I like Jaden Hardy. He's pretty good. He doesn't really get a lot of minutes. D'Angelo Russell sucks. Dante Exum's injured. So I do like this trade for the Washington Wizards. Next, we have James Harden going to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland. Now, I did post an immediate reaction video on my channel. It was 2 videos ago, so if you want my full straight up reaction, go check that out. However, after having some time to think, I really do enjoy this trade for Cleveland. The Cavaliers trade for a player who's reliable, an Iron Man type of guy in James Harden, who is still an absolutely incredible playmaker, better than Darius Garland, and a better defender than Darius Garland, as well as being a slightly better shot creator than Darius Garland, all at the age of 36. To bring in James Harden to pair alongside Donovan Mitchell, crazy offense in the front court. However, again, still doesn't really solve the defensive issues. However, we will get into that later. This trade was ultimately, from Cleveland's point of view anyway, to keep Donovan Mitchell happy, because we know that Donovan Mitchell still has not signed a contract extension with the team. So this means that this is a win now kind of move. With the Eastern Conference being as wide open as ever this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers have bought all in, changing up their core 4 that they've had forever, bringing in James Harden. Now, the LA Clippers get Darius Garland as well as a second-round pick, committing to more of a future timeline than a present one. Darius Garland is currently dealing with another toe injury, so I don't know when he's gonna actually make his debut for the LA Clippers, but man, this trade as well as another trade, what the hell are the LA Clippers front office doing? I feel really bad for Kawhi Leonard, man. On paper though, Darius Garland works well. He's young, he's 26, he's 10 years younger than James Harden, still an incredible playmaker, he's quick, he's a good shooter, he's a good shot creator. He'd work well alongside Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi Leonard is 10 years older than him. How old is Kawhi? Like 35? So, two different timelines there. Now, the next trade also involves the LA Clippers, where they send Ivica Zubac to the Indiana Pacers. So, Indiana ultimately receives Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown. And in my opinion, I think Indiana won this trade. I've seen a lot of different point of views when it comes to who won this trade and who didn't. I think Indiana did, but a lot of people are saying LA did. So we'll get into what the Clippers received shortly. However, we're going to start with Indiana. I think this is a really, really damn good pickup for them. Obviously, they were in desperate need for a center. They've been starting Jay Huff for most of the season. After losing Miles Turner in the offseason to the Milwaukee Bucks, the center spot was definitely a position of need. Ivica Zubac is one of the best defensive bigs in the NBA, especially in the drop coverage. And when he's at his best, he's an all-defensive caliber guy. Now, I don't think this is ultimately going to do a lot for them this season. However, when Tyrese Halliburton comes back, I think Ivica Zubac is gonna be unleashed. We saw what Hallie was able to do with Miles Turner, and although Ivica Zubac and Miles Turner play completely differently, like literally the complete opposite. Miles Turner is a three-point shooter. He's not a great rim protector, but he gets a lot of blocked shots. He doesn't rebound the ball. He's slow at moving his feet. Whereas Ivica Zubac does not have a three-point shot, but he's a great rebounder. He's a great lob target. He's a great roll man. And he's a great rim protector, but not a great shot blocker. I don't think you could get two clearly opposite players. Now, the one thing though is I'm not sure how to feel about the Indiana Pacers giving up a pick, but there is a chance that they keep it, but I'll get into that very shortly. But this season, ultimately, I think Indiana needs to embrace the tank, because with this, I'll just tell you exactly what it is now. The pick is a 2026 Indiana protected pick, picks 1 to 4 and 10 to 30. So the way that the Indiana Pacers keep this pick is if it either falls picks 1, 2, 3, and 4, or picks 10 through 30. Now, the reason that I'm saying that they need to embrace a tank is because if they keep losing at the rate they are, this pick could easily become a top 4 pick where they can land one of those top guys. And can you imagine a next year's Pacers team where they bring back Tyrese Halliburton, they bring back a Darren Peterson, a Cam Booz, or a DeBonsa, or a Caleb Wilson alongside Zoo, and they've still got Pascal Siakam? This team could be the best team in the Eastern Conference next season, easily. But if they win a little bit more games now because they have Zoo to the point where the odds fall to them falling in the 5 to 9 range, they're not going to get that pick. And that is where I can see the Clippers potentially winning this trade, because if they land a top 5 through 9 pick to pair alongside Kawhi and Darius Garland next season, that would be pretty good. I'm not saying that if Indiana doesn't get this pick that they're going to be bad. They'll still be solid, but there is definitely potential for them to get even better. Now, the LA Clippers receive Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, that 2026 Indiana protected pick that I just talked about, and a 2029 unprotected pick from the Pacers as well. Now, if that 2026 pick does go back to Indiana, this will then turn into a unprotected 2031 pick that the Clippers will have. I'm not a big fan of this trade for LA for this season specifically. I think Benedict Mathurin is cool, but for the streak that LA has been on, where they're the best team in January and they've gone like 15-5 over the past 20 games or something crazy like that, I just think that this, along with the James Harden trade, is just gonna put them right back to square one. And ultimately, they no longer have a good big man. They traded Zubac, and now they are forced to start bum-ass Brook Lopez, who's shooting less than 40% from the field as a 7-footer. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're saying, oh, he shoots threes, he's allowed to. Shut up. I don't care. No one over this height of 7 feet tall should be shooting less than 40%. Grow up. And I just think that the biggest reason that I do not like this trade for this season is ultimately the Clippers have gotten worse. And maybe you're thinking, oh, but that's all right. They'll get a good draft pick. Let me tell you something, buddy. Old Jimbo in there who thinks they still have their pick. They don't have their pick this year. Oh, well, who has their pick? Surely it's just another bad team, right? Nope. No, it isn't. It is the best team in the NBA and the reigning champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if the Clippers, which ultimately looks like this is going to happen, if they become even worse and drop down the standings again, the Thunder could potentially have a top 5 pick. And this could even turn into a top 3 pick. Can you imagine if the OKC Thunder get one of those freaks at the top of the draft? It's wraps. It's over. Stupid GM. Who is their GM? Trent Redden. You silly sausage. Next, we have Jaren Jackson to the Utah Jazz. So the Utah Jazz receive Triple J, Jock Landale, John Conchar, and Vince Williams. Now, Jock Landale was ultimately flipped to the Atlanta Hawks, so he's not there, but Triple J, John Conchar, and Vince Williams are. I like this for Utah, especially right now. They pick up a much-needed defensive beast in former Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr., and considering the Jazz are one of the worst defensive teams, this is quite helpful. Next year, when they're all healthy, they're going to have a starting lineup of Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, Triple J, and Walker Kessler. You mean to tell me you have 3 7-footers on the court at the same time? And then you've got Triple J, who's an incredible defender, and Walker Kessler, who's an insane defender himself? Bro, no chance anyone's scoring down low. This ultimately does pile a lot more money on Utah, but they are clearly into a buying now for their ultimate future. Considering that Lauri Markkanen's having the best season of his career and Keontae George has been an absolute breakout player, you can kind of see where Danny Ainge was in his mindset. These players are playing really well, let's bring in some pieces to help them. And I think that this is a fun trade. I think it's fantastic. I don't think it's going to make them a playoff team this year, obviously. But for the immediate future, next season, I think the Utah Jazz could be fairly promising. And they didn't really trade much to get him. And Triple J, he's also signed through the 28-29 season and has a player option for the 29-30 season. So he could be on the Utah Jazz through all that time. Now, ultimately though, I do want Utah to keep losing this season because ultimately, OKC, yes, again, has the Utah Jazz's pick. Now, luckily though, this pick is protected through picks 1 to 8. So if Utah can continue to keep losing, they can bring in hopefully a really solid pick. So the Thunder could potentially get a top 3 pick from the Clippers and a top 9 onwards from the Jazz. So, but we're not here to talk about the Thunder. Now, Memphis receives Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, and Georges Niang, as well as 3 future first-round picks, a 2027 Jazz best swap, a 2027 Lakers unprotected pick, and a 2031 Suns pick. This on paper for Memphis doesn't seem like a lot. However, Walter Clayton Jr. is a solid point guard, but what's the best thing about this is they bring in even more draft capital. But this ultimately now establishes that they are in a rebuilding era. However, they didn't trade Ja Morant through the deadline, which was a little bit strange to me, but now Memphis has 6 picks over the next 7 seasons, so it's a very solid base for a rebuild. Next, the Golden State Warriors get Kristaps Porzingis from the Atlanta Hawks. So on paper, this looks really, really good for the Golden State Warriors. KP, when healthy, is one of the best rim protectors in the entire association, as well as a really, really solid stretch big. Perfect kind of archetype for Steph, and this is the kind of player they were looking for when they signed Al Horford in the offseason. Now, the one thing that we always will know about KP is that his availability is his biggest liability. He's got Potts. So, I don't know much about Potts, but I know it's pretty serious. So, there is a very high chance that he's not going to play much at all. However, when he is on the court, he is one of the most impactful players in the league. What did the Warriors trade? They finally get rid of that bum Jonathan Kuminga as well as Buddy Hield. Now, it's sad to see Buddy Hield go. Him and Jimmy were boys. We're not going to see that duo again. Ultimately, I don't think this is bad for the Warriors. You might think, well, KP's always injured. But Jonathan Kuminga never played. What did he do? You got rid of a locker room cancer, you got rid of a guy that didn't fit your culture, you got rid of a guy with a terrible attitude, so this is great for Golden State. Atlanta, have fun with Jonathan Kuminga, that guy sucks. Jonathan Kuminga should have been traded a gazillion times by this point, and I feel like now when you actually trade him, it is way too late, his value's at an all-time low. But Mike Dunleavy, you're the best GM on the planet, you clearly know what you're doing. But yeah, Atlanta, JK, and Buddy Hield, sure, whatever. Interesting. Now, Buddy Hield will be a better option than Luke Kennard ultimately, which we will get to. He's still a good shooter while being a better defender and a better shot creator. Ultimately, sure. And those, I think, were the biggest trades of this trade deadline. I'm not mentioning the Trae Young one because that happened a little while ago. However, Trae Young is now a Washington Wizard and he got traded for a bag of potato chips. Now, Next, I'm going to get into some smaller trades. We're not going to go too much in detail, but I still think that they're very impactful. Nikola Vucevic to the Boston Celtics for Anthony Simons and a second-round pick. Now, Boston finally gets their big man that they've been wanting all season in Nikola Vucevic. I don't like Vucevic very much. He's solid. He's a good stabilizer on the offensive side of the ball. However, offense isn't the issue for Boston. Their defense this season has taken a slip. It's in times looked really solid, but other times it's looked terrible, and Vooch is a terrible defender. One of the worst defenders at the center position in the league. I guess they wanted to stretch big, but I thought their center play was fine this season. They probably were trying to go and get a Ivica Zubac, but that fell through clearly because he's gone to the Pacers. I don't know what kind of value Vucevic is going to bring. He's been, like I said, he's been solid. He's a decent rebounder, but he's old. I don't know who he's going to fit in Boston, but I mean, hell, Missoula ball. He'll probably thrive. Now, Chicago receiving Anthony Simons as well as a second-round pick. Chicago receives an elite shot-creating guard off the bench. He's not the best defender. I don't think he'll stay there very long. I think he'll get moved in the offseason. I love Ant Simons, the Inferno. I liked him in Boston, man, but we always knew that he was going to get traded since the start of the season, since before the season even. Next, Kobe White to the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this was a 3-team trade. Charlotte receives Kobe White and Mike Conley. Conley is gone now, and Ousmane Dieng, who got rerouted to Chicago, as well as a second-round pick. Kobe White is an upgrade from Colin Sexton. He will fill a very similar role for the Hornets. He's better. He's a better defender as well. He's a bit bigger. I thought Kobe White was going to go to Minnesota. Guess I was wrong. I never expected Kobe White to go to Charlotte. I like the move. Not really a game changer. Chicago receives Colin Sexton and 3 future second-round picks, and now Chicago has 2 similar archetypes in Colin Sexton and Anthony Simons, both small guards who like to shoot a lot and have the ball in their hands and who don't play much defense. So no idea what they were thinking there. And OKC jumps in on this and receives Mason Plumlee. Who gives a Next, Ayo Dosunmu to Minnesota. Now, I like this. It's not a massive game changer for the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, Ayo is really, really solid. He's a great two-way player. He's averaging 15 points this season. He's a pretty solid defensive presence. However, he's not really a point guard. He's more of a combo guard, more of a 2 guard. They also get Julian Phillips, who I don't really know much about. But pairing Ayo alongside Ant and Dante DiVincenzo, sure, gives them another scorer off the bench. Nice pickup for the Wolves. I do like it. Chicago receives Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 future second-round picks. Cool. Next, and this is one of my favorite trades, this entire trade deadline. The Cleveland Cavaliers add Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. This was also a 3-team trade. We will get into that. Cleveland receives Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis from Sacramento, and Emmanuel Miller from the Bulls. Now, the reason I love this for Cleveland is they brought in pieces that they absolutely needed. They needed a bench creator because Lonzo Ball just did not pan out. Dennis Schroeder is that. They needed a perimeter defender, someone who's a great 3-and-D guy. Keon Ellis is that. And their first game together on the Cavs was really solid. They combined for 5 steals. And Sacramento receives DeAndre Hunter from the Cavs. Why? DeAndre Hunter in Sacramento? Alongside DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine? Really? Man, Kings fans, I feel so sorry for you. I like DeAndre Hunter. He's solid. Not in Sacramento. Why didn't Sacramento trade Sabonis? Because no one wants him. That's right. Because no one in Sacramento has any value once they get there. Because whatever happens, whatever's in the air in Sacramento, to their players, their fan base, I feel so sorry for. The Sacramento Kings fan base is one of the best in the entire league. Shout out to you if you're a Kings fan. I know one of you are. I know one of you is. And then Chicago receives Dario Saric and more second-round picks. The Chicago Bulls are really stacking up on their second-round picks. What is that? 6? 6 second-round picks? 6 or 7? Now the last one, Jared McCain to OKC. Man, the Thunder do it again. They bring in Jared McCain, who was looking like the runaway rookie of the year last season before going down with an injury. And if this works, Jared McCain can be really, really good. He's not a great defender. However, he's a 3-point shooter. And what do the Thunder need? Shooting. Who did they trade for Jared McCain? No one. They did not trade a single player. They traded their own first-round pick for this year. Wait, that doesn't make sense because that was it. Anyway, the Thunder's second-round pick in 2027 and 2 2028 second-rounders. OKC, man. Shout out Sam Presti. He's a beast. Great GM. Now, I'm going to talk about some minor moves, so I'm just going to tell you who went where. I'm not going to go into it too much unless I want to. CP3 is going to Canada. He's now a Toronto Raptor. I like it. I like it for the Raptors. They don't really have a true point guard over there. I mean, Jamal Shed. Ochai Agbaji go to Brooklyn via Toronto, and the Clippers receive the rights to some European guy, and I don't know what his name is. I'll put it here. Have fun. The Knicks. Now I really like this trade. It's small, but it's solid. Knicks get Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, and the Pelicans get Dalen Terry, 2 second-round picks, and cash considerations. Now, Dalen Terry came from Chicago. Luke Kennard to the LA Lakers, where they needed a shooter for Gabe Vincent. Finally, bro, Gabe Vincent is dookie. Oh my God, he's awful. Why would Atlanta do that? I've got no idea, but thank God. Now, Luke Kennard to the Lakers. Rob Pelinka clearly loves his white boys. Luka, AR, Maxi Kleber, Luke Kennard. Someone else probably. Drew Timmy's there. Loves his white boys. Oh yeah, Atlanta also got a 2032 second round pick. Cool. Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric, and a 2026 first round protected swap are all headed to Detroit, while Chicago receives Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley, where Mike Conley was ultimately rerouted, as well as Dario Saric, and Minnesota receives cash considerations. Now you're probably thinking, wait, so now Chicago has Jaden Ivey, Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, Trey Jones, Josh Giddey. Now, like, you guys finally, you were able to move on from Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. Great. You brought in more guys that do the same. Cool, man. The Chicago Bulls front office is so stupid. So stupid. I feel for you Bulls fans, man. I would hate to be a Bulls fan. Next, the Bucks get Nigel Hayes-Davis via Phoenix, Ousmane Dieng via Chicago, and Phoenix receives Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey via Milwaukee, and Chicago receives Nick Richards via Phoenix. That was a 3-team trade. Good job for keeping up. Memphis receives Eric Gordon and a 2032 second-round pick swap from Philly. And this ultimately gives Philadelphia the room to convert Dominic Barlow, who's been a beast, from a 2-way contract into a regular contract. What did they get from Memphis? I don't know. It didn't say. Atlanta gets Jacques Landale via Utah. Remember I said earlier that Jacques Landale was no longer there. He goes to Utah. And today, he played his first game for Utah, and oh my God, he looked like an all-star. He was really good. He goes to Utah, and then Utah receives Lonzo Ball and 2 future second-rounders from Cleveland, but then Lonzo Ball got waived, so that's sad. The Nets get Hunter Tyson and a 2032 second-rounder from the Nuggets for a second-round pick, and Josh Minot goes to Brooklyn from Boston. I don't know what Boston gets for him. And Gershon Yabusele goes to Chicago for Dalen Terry. Earlier I mentioned that he switched teams, and Yabu played his first game today. He looked pretty solid. Trace Jackson-Davis from the Golden State Warriors is traded to the Toronto Raptors for a 2026 second-round pick via the Lakers. Chris Boucher to Utah from Boston, and he's ultimately waived. Vit Krejci to Portland via Atlanta for Duop Reith and 2 second-round picks. And finally, Dallas receives Tyus Jones via Charlotte for Malachi Branham. Oh, sorry, this is finally. Xavier Tillman from the Celtics is traded to the Charlotte Hornets for what? Again, I don't know. Now, that's all the trades out of the way. Now, there were a few players waived who could bring some value to the right organization. First of all, Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets was waived. Not traded, but waived. He clearly did not want to be in Brooklyn anymore. He averaged 24 points per game last season. So he could be a really good bench piece for a contending team. Detroit, that would be really good. Houston, maybe. San Antonio. And then Lonzo Ball, like I mentioned before, was waived, and Chris Boucher was waived as well. Now, finally, I just want to give away some of my takeaways. As you can tell, I did not mention Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is still a Milwaukee Buck. I am so sick of the whole Giannis trade saga. It pisses me off. Ja Morant, like I mentioned earlier, was not moved. So again, surprising considering they traded Desmond Bane in the offseason and traded Jaren Jackson Jr. today, or not today, a couple days ago. So I don't know what's happening there. The Rockets did nothing. Why? You guys clearly need a point guard. Go and get a point guard. Well, it's too late now. You're just sitting on your hands the whole goddamn time? What are you doing? The Pelicans held true to their word and kept all of their core pieces. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion. I feel like I'm missing someone. They're all still in New Orleans. I really wanted San Antonio to trade for Trey Murphy, man. Oh, I really wanted that. Michael Porter Jr. is still a Brooklyn Net, which I'm happy with. He's been balling out. I love Michael Porter Jr. as a net. Just keep letting him shoot, man. Draymond Green stays put. Now, he addressed the trade rumors, and he was clearly upset about it, and that's the most emotion I think I've ever seen Draymond Green have. That wasn't anger towards another player, where he ultimately decides to punch them in the face. But yeah, Draymond is still a warrior because their Giannis trade was rejected. The Spurs, like I said, didn't get Trey Murphy, but I really think that they should have made a trade for a wing for a shooter, but they didn't. I think they should have at least made an offer, man. They didn't do anything. They sat on their hands. The Lakers didn't do much. They got Luke Kennard, cool, but that's not what you need. You don't need more shooting. You don't. You need defense. Luke Kennard does not play a lick of defense. He can't guard a traffic cone. The Pistons also didn't do much. You bring in Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter sucks. Again, a team that needs a shooter. Kevin Huerter in theory is a shooter, but like he's not been having a very good season. And then Toronto as well needed a big. They don't have a big. They have Jakob Poeltl who doesn't play, and they traded for Trace Jackson-Davis, who is a center. He's 6'9", and you can tell his value. He was traded for a second-round pick. Like I said before, players we knew were getting traded were traded, but to people we weren't expecting. I thought Anthony Davis was going to go to Toronto or Atlanta. I really thought that Michael Porter Jr. was going to be traded. I really thought that the Spurs were going to make a trade for something. Pat Riley, once again, does call. And you know what? I'm actually surprised that the Bulls owners or franchise did something. The front office made trades. You acquired 17 second-round picks and you replaced player A for player B. They have the same archetype. Bro, you did a fire sale, but you basically brought in fucking mirror images of the players you traded. Oh, man. The incompetency of the Chicago Bulls front office is insane. I feel sorry for you, king of the fourth quarter. Man, Kenny Beecham, your team, man. Jesus Christ. But that is all from me for this video. Again, this was just it's probably not going to be quick. It's not going to be very edited. Trade deadline recap. Let me know what you guys think about the trade deadline this year. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if your team made a move, or if your team didn't make a move, how you feel about it. But like I said in the intro, please don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.